The emergency beacon cut through the static like a blade, its desperate signal reaching across the void to the human exploration vessel Endurance. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display as her communications officer worked to decode the transmission. "It's coming from the Kepler 442 system," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his fingers dancing over the console. "But, Captain, this signal, it's not from any known species in our database." Chen frowned. The Kepler system had been marked as uninhabited for over 50 years. "Can you clean it up?" The speakers crackled to life with a sound that made everyone on the bridge freeze. It was a howl, not quite animal, not quite mechanical, but something caught between worlds of flesh and metal. The sound carried pain, loneliness, and something else that tugged at every human heart on the ship. "My God," whispered Dr. Elena Vasquez, the ship's xenobiologist. "Whatever that is, it's dying." Captain Chen had served in 3 interstellar conflicts and had seen things that would haunt her dreams forever. But something about that cry reached into her chest and squeezed. "Set course for Kepler 442b. Maximum burn." "Captain," her first officer Commander Pike stepped forward, "we're supposed to be conducting mineral surveys in the Vega sector. Command won't be happy if we deviate from our mission." Chen's jaw tightened. "Let me worry about Command. That signal is a distress call, and we're the only ship within 3 light years. We're going." The journey took 18 hours at maximum burn, and during that time, the signal grew weaker. Dr. Vasquez spent every moment analyzing the transmission, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Captain, you need to see this," she finally called out. "I've managed to separate the biological components from the mechanical ones in that signal. Whatever is down there, it's part organic, part artificial. But the organic parts, they're failing." The planet Kepler 442b loomed before them, its surface scarred with what looked like massive impact craters. As they entered orbit, their sensors picked up the remnants of a battlefield that stretched across an entire continent. Twisted metal structures jutted from the ground like broken bones, and the atmosphere still carried traces of exotic weapons discharge. There, Navigator Chun Wu pointed to a massive crater near the planet's equator. "The signal is coming from the bottom of that impact site." Captain Chen studied the tactical display. The crater was nearly 50 kilometers wide and at least 2 kilometers deep. At its center lay what appeared to be the wreckage of an enormous starship, its hull split open like a cracked egg. "Launch the survey probe," she ordered. "I want to know what we're dealing with before we send down a team." The probe descended through the planet's thin atmosphere, its cameras transmitting images that left the crew speechless. The crashed ship was unlike anything in their databases, sleek and organic-looking, as if it had been grown rather than built. And, scattered around it were the remains of what could only be described as a war zone. "Captain," the probe operator's voice was tight with tension, "I'm picking up movement in the wreckage. Whatever's down there, it's still alive." The probe's cameras focused on a section of the ship's hull that had been torn away, revealing the interior. There, trapped beneath a massive piece of debris, was the source of the signal. It looked like a wolf, but a wolf that had been touched by alien technology and transformed into something magnificent and terrible. Its body was easily the size of a small vehicle, covered in what appeared to be living armor that pulsed with faint bioluminescent patterns. Where its left hind leg should have been, there was twisted metal and sparking wires. Its breathing was labored, and dark fluid, whether blood or some other vital fluid, pooled beneath its massive form. But its eyes held an intelligence that was unmistakably sentient. "It's beautiful," Dr. Vasquez whispered. The creature's head lifted slightly as if sensing their observation, and it released another of those haunting howls. This time, however, the universal translator caught fragments of meaning embedded in the sound. "Help, please, alone, so long." Captain Chen felt something inside her chest break. She turned to her first officer. "Prep the shuttle. We're going down." "Captain, with respect, we don't know what that thing is or what it's capable of. It's hurt and alone," Chen cut him off. "And it asked for help. That's all I need to know." The shuttle Mercy descended into the crater 40 minutes later, carrying Captain Chen, Dr. Vasquez, Chief Engineer Morrison, and Medical Officer Dr. Park. The landscape around the crashed ship was desolate, filled with the kind of silence that spoke of recent death and destruction. As they approached on foot, their scanning equipment went wild. The ship's technology was so advanced that their instruments couldn't make sense of most of what they were detecting. Incredible, Engineer Morrison breathed, running his scanner over a piece of hull debris. This isn't just technology, it's biotechnology. The ship was alive. Dr. Vasquez was focused on their patient. The creature's life signs are weak but stable. Whatever that armor is, it's been keeping it alive, but just barely. They found the Warhound where the probe had spotted it, trapped under what appeared to be a support beam from the ship's superstructure. Up close, it was even more magnificent and heartbreaking. Its armor had clearly been damaged in the crash, with several plates hanging loosely and others missing entirely. The mechanical leg had been crushed completely, leaving exposed circuitry and what looked like artificial muscle fiber. But it was awake and watching them. "Easy, boy," Captain Chen said softly, approaching slowly with her hands visible. "We're here to help." The creature's massive head turned toward her, and she found herself looking into eyes that held depths of intelligence and pain that made her chest ache. When it spoke, the words came through both sound and their universal translators. "You are not Zephyrians," it said, its voice a deep rumble that seemed to come from both its throat and the damaged speakers in its armor. "You smell different. Stranger." "We're humans," Dr. Vasquez said, kneeling just out of reach. "We heard your distress call. What's your name?" The creature was silent for a long moment, and Chen wondered if it was deciding whether to trust them. Finally, it spoke. "I am Vexhai of the Third Talon. War bonded to Captain Thanel of the battleship Star's Heart." Its voice grew weaker. "I am the last." The weight of those words settled over the rescue team like a heavy blanket. Dr. Park stepped forward with his medical scanner, and the creature Vexhai didn't object to the examination. "The biological components are severely stressed," Park reported quietly. "Malnutrition, dehydration, and what looks like systemic poisoning from damaged cybernetic components. It's a miracle he's still alive." "How long?" Chen asked. "Without intervention?" "Hours, maybe less." Chen looked back at Vexhai, whose eyes had never left her face. "Would you let us help you? We'll need to move you to our ship." "Why?" The question came out as barely a whisper. "Your people do not know mine. There is no debt between us. No bond." Chen knelt beside the massive head, close enough to see the intricate patterns in the living armor. "Because you're hurt. Because you asked for help. Because no one should die alone." She paused. "Because it's the right thing to do." Vexhai's eyes closed, and for a moment she thought he had died. Then, they opened again, and something that might have been hope flickered in their depths. "I accept." The next hour was a careful dance of engineering and medicine. Morrison worked to stabilize the debris trapping Vexhai while Dr. Park administered 4 fluids and emergency medications. The creature's physiology was unlike anything they'd encountered, but the basic principles of trauma care seemed to apply. When they finally freed him from the wreckage, Vexhai was nearly 3 meters long and massed at least 400 kilograms. His armor was a work of art, flowing seamlessly from technological components to what appeared to be living tissue. Even damaged as it was beautiful. "The armor's integrated with his nervous system," Dr. Vasquez observed as they prepared to move him. "It's not just protection, it's part of him." Getting Vexhai to the shuttle required creative use of their portable anti-grav stretcher, but they managed. Throughout the transfer, the Warhound remained conscious and alert, though clearly in significant pain. As the shuttle lifted off from the planet's surface, Vexhai turned his head to look back at the crashed ship. "Goodbye, my brothers," he whispered. "May you find peace in the void." Captain Chen watched the planet shrink below them and wondered what they were bringing aboard her ship. Vexhai was clearly a weapons system as much as a living being, designed for war in ways that her crew couldn't even imagine. But when she looked into his eyes, all she saw was a person in pain who had been alone for far too long. "Welcome aboard the Endurance, Vexhai," she said softly. "You're safe now." For the first time since they'd found him, something that might have been a smile crossed the Warhound's massive features. "Thank you, Captain Chen. Your people, they are not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Most species fear us. Or try to use us." His voice was getting stronger as Dr. Park's medications took effect. "But, you simply helped." As the shuttle docked with the Endurance, Chen couldn't help but think that this rescue was going to change everything for both her crew and their unexpected passenger. She had no idea how right she was. The warhound Vexhai was about to teach humanity what it truly meant to have an ally who would follow them into hell itself. And humanity was about to show the galaxy what they did for those who earned their loyalty. Neither species would ever be the same. The medical bay of the Endurance had never been designed to hold a 400-kilogram cybernetic warhound. Dr. Park and his team had to completely reconfigure the space, combining 2 surgical suites and bringing in equipment from the engineering deck to accommodate their unusual patient. Vexhai lay on the specially reinforced medical bed, his living armor powered down to its lowest settings to conserve energy. The patterns that had pulsed with bioluminescent light now barely flickered, like dying embers. But his eyes remained alert, tracking the movement of every crew member who entered the medical bay. "Remarkable," Dr. Vasquez muttered, reviewing the scans they'd taken since bringing Vexhai aboard. "His armor isn't just integrated with his nervous system, it's essentially functioning as a secondary circulatory and respiratory system. Without it, he'd have died hours ago." Captain Chen stood at the foot of the medical bed, studying their guest. 3 days had passed since the rescue, and Vexhai's condition had stabilized but not improved. The damaged cybernetic components in his destroyed leg were poisoning his system faster than their medical equipment could filter the toxins. "The real problem," Dr. Park explained, pulling up a holographic display of Vexhai's internal structure, "is here." He pointed to the junction where the destroyed leg connected to Vexhai's body. The cybernetic components were designed to interface directly with his nervous system and circulatory system. When they were damaged in the crash, they began leaking exotic compounds into his bloodstream. "Can you remove them?" Chen asked. "That's the issue. The integration is so complete that removing the damaged components might kill him faster than leaving them in place." Vexhai's voice rumbled from the medical bed. "Captain Chen, may I speak with you privately?" Chen nodded to her medical team, who filed out of the room with varying degrees of reluctance. Dr. Vasquez lingered at the door. "It's all right, Elena," Chen said softly. "Give us a moment." When they were alone, Vexhai struggled to lift his massive head. "Captain, I must tell you about my people. About what I am." Chen pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down. Over the past 3 days, she'd grown fond of the warhound's quiet dignity and obvious intelligence. "I'm listening." "The Zephyrians created us during the Void Wars, nearly 2 centuries ago. We are biomechanical constructs, grown from wolf genetics and enhanced with technology beyond what most species possess." His voice carried a weight of old sadness. "We were designed to be the perfect soldiers, intelligent enough to think independently, loyal enough never to betray our handlers, and deadly enough to turn the tide of any battle." Chen leaned forward. "What happened to your people?" "The Zephyrians won their war, but they discovered that engineered loyalty has its limits. When they ordered us to attack civilians of a defeated species, the Third Talon refused. We had been created to be warriors, not butchers." Vexhai's eyes closed briefly. "The Zephyrians declared us defective and ordered our termination. But you escaped. 43 warhounds of the Third Talon stole the battleship Star's heart and fled into deep space. We became mercenaries, selling our services to those who fought for just causes." A rumble that might have been laughter came from his chest. "It was a good life. We were brothers, a pack. We had purpose." Chen felt her heart sink. "What happened to the others?" 3 months ago, we took a contract to protect a colony ship carrying refugees from the Kepler system. They were fleeing the expansion of the hegemony, a totalitarian state that enslaves any species they consider useful and exterminates the rest." Vexhai's voice grew harder. "The hegemony sent a fleet to stop the refugees. We fought them over Kepler 442b. You won. We won the battle, but the cost." Vexhai's massive frame shuddered. "The Star's heart was destroyed. 42 of my brothers died in the void. I was the only survivor, and only because my armor's emergency systems kept me alive in the wreckage." Chen sat in silence for a moment, processing the enormity of what Vexhai had lost. "How long were you trapped?" 4 months, 17 days, 6 hours. The precision of his answer spoke to the isolation and despair he'd endured. "I felt each of my brothers die through our neural link. I watched the refugee ship escape to safety. Then, I was alone. But, you kept fighting to survive. At first, yes. Then, I simply waited to die. Until your people found me. Vexai's eyes fixed on hers. Captain, I need you to understand what you've brought aboard your ship. I am a weapon of war, designed to kill with efficiency that would horrify you. But, more than that, I am the last of my kind. When I die, the third Talon dies with me. Chen reached out and placed her hand on the armored hide above Vexai's foreleg. The armor was warm, pulsing with a rhythm that matched his heartbeat. You're not going to die. Not on my watch. Your medical officer believes otherwise. My medical officer doesn't know humans very well. Chen smiled grimly. We have a tendency to do impossible things when someone we care about is in trouble. Before Vexai could respond, the ship's intercom crackled to life. Captain to the bridge immediately. Priority 1 emergency. Chen's expression darkened. Stay here and rest. We'll figure this out. She found her bridge crew in a state of controlled chaos. Commander Pike was coordinating with multiple stations while Lieutenant Rodriguez worked frantically at the communications console. Report, Chen ordered. Captain, we're receiving multiple distress signals from the Proxima Centauri colony, Pike said. They're under attack by an unknown fleet. Unknown? Chen frowned. Proxima Centauri was one of humanity's oldest and most important colonies, with over 12 million inhabitants. The attacking ships don't match any known configurations in our database, Rodriguez added. But, Captain, there's something else. The colony's last transmission included this. The main screen flickered to life, showing grainy footage from Proxima Centauri's orbital defense platforms. Chen felt her blood turn to ice as she watched sleek, predatory ships systematically destroying the human defenses. The ships had an organic quality to them, as if they'd been grown rather than built. Those are hegemony vessels, Vexai's voice rumbled from behind them. Chen spun around to see the Warhound dragging himself onto the bridge, his damaged armor sparking with the effort. Dr. Park followed close behind, medical scanners in hand and a look of exasperation on his face. Vexai, you need to be in medical, there is no time, Vexai cut him off. Captain, those ships belong to the hegemony. If they've found Proxima Centauri, they've found humanity. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. How is that possible? We've never encountered this hegemony before. They have been watching you. Learning about you. The human colony ships that have been disappearing over the past year, the hegemony has been capturing them, studying your people. Vexai's massive form shuddered as he spoke. They consider humans to be potentially useful as slave labor, but only after proper conditioning. Slave labor? Pike's voice was deadly quiet. The hegemony enslaves entire species. They use biotechnology and neural conditioning to create perfect workers and soldiers. Those who resist are simply exterminated. Vexai's eyes blazed. Captain, if they have reached Proxima Centauri, your entire species is in immediate danger. Chen stared at the tactical display showing Proxima Centauri's location. How long before they can reinforce their fleet? Unknown. But, the hegemony never attacks with just one fleet. There will be others, targeting your major colonies and homeworld simultaneously. Vexai struggled to stand straighter. Captain, I know their tactics, their technology. I can help you fight them. Dr. Park stepped forward. Vexai, in your current condition, you can barely stand. Combat is out of the question. Then, fix me. The simple statement hung in the air like a challenge. Chen looked from her medical officer to the Warhound. Is that possible? Dr. Park ran his hands through his hair. The damaged cybernetics need to be completely removed and replaced. But, we don't have the technology to interface new components with his biological systems. It would require understanding of biotechnology that we simply don't possess. What about the wreckage of the star's heart? Chen asked suddenly. Could we salvage parts from there? The ship was destroyed in orbit, Vexai said slowly. But, there would be debris fields. Some components might have survived. Chen turned to her navigator. Shinwu, how long to get back to Kepler 442? At maximum burn, 16 hours. And, from there to Proxima Centauri? 36 hours. Chen did the math in her head. The hegemony attack on Proxima Centauri was already underway, but if they could move fast enough, they might be able to help with the counterattack. Commander Pike, signal the fleet command. Tell them we have intelligence on the attacking force and are en route to provide assistance. She turned back to Vex High. You're sure you can help us fight them? Captain, the Third Talon spent 8 years fighting the hegemony as mercenaries. I know their weaknesses, their blind spots. But, more importantly, Vex High's eyes blazed with something fierce and primal. They killed my brothers. They have marked themselves for death. Chen felt something cold and determined settle in her chest. The hegemony had made a mistake when they decided to threaten humanity. They were about to learn why even a dying warhound was still something to be feared. Set course for Kepler 442, maximum burn. Alert all departments for combat operations. She looked at Vex High, who despite his injuries somehow managed to project an aura of deadly competence. Let's go save your family and get revenge for your brothers. The warhound's lips pulled back in what could only be described as a savage grin. Yes, Captain. Let us hunt. As the Endurance changed course and accelerated toward their destiny, Captain Chen couldn't shake the feeling that this was exactly what Vex High had been waiting for, not just to survive, but to have a cause worth dying for. The hegemony was about to discover why humanity's greatest strength had always been their ability to turn strangers into family and family into an unstoppable force. The debris field around Kepler 442 be stretched for thousands of kilometers, a graveyard of twisted metal and shattered dreams. The Endurance moved through it slowly, her sensors sweeping for the specific components Dr. Park needed to save Vex High's life. There, Vex High said quietly, his massive form secured to a reinforced chair on the bridge. That section with the blue-green energy signature. That's from the medical bay. Captain Chen studied the twisted hull fragment on the main screen. It was the size of a small building, scarred by weapons fire and the violence of the Star's Heart's death. Are you sure the cybernetic components survived? The medical bay was designed to function even during battle. The surgical systems would have been in individual containment fields when the ship was destroyed. Vex High's voice carried a mixture of hope and pain. If anything survived, it would be there. Engineer Morrison looked up from his console. Captain, I'm reading massive energy fluctuations from that debris. Whatever power source they used, it's still partially active. Can we bring it aboard? The cargo bay can handle the size, but the energy readings concern me. If that power source goes critical while it's inside the ship. Shen weighed the options. Every minute they spent here was another minute the hegemony had to consolidate their attack on human colonies. But, without the cybernetic components from the wreckage, Vex High would be dead within hours, and, with him, their only real hope of understanding how to fight the enemy. Do it! But, I want full containment protocols and emergency jettison procedures ready. The salvage operation took 4 precious hours. The Star's Heart's medical bay had indeed survived, its biotechnological systems sealed within energy fields that had somehow maintained integrity even after the ship's destruction. As the massive fragments settled into the cargo bay, the air itself seemed to hum with alien power. Dr. Vasquez was the first to examine the salvaged equipment, her scanner readings sending spikes of excitement through her voice. Captain, this is incredible. The surgical systems aren't just advanced, they're sentient. The computers are actually bioneural networks. Dr. Park was more focused on the practical aspects. Can they interface with Vex High's existing systems? They were designed to. The question is whether we can figure out how to operate them without killing our patient. Vex High had been transported to the cargo bay despite his protests that he could walk. Now he lay beside the salvaged medical equipment, his massive form dwarfed by the alien machinery. The systems respond to neural interface, he explained, his breathing growing more labored as the toxins in his system continued to build. But they were calibrated for Zephyrian operators. Your minds work differently. Can you operate them yourself? Dr. Park asked. Not in my current condition. The interface requires focus and energy I no longer possess. Chen knelt beside the warhound's massive head. What do you need? A connection. Someone whose mind can bridge the gap between human thought patterns and Zephyrian technology. Vex High's eyes fixed on her with startling intensity. You, Captain. Me? I'm not a doctor. You don't need to be. The surgical systems are automated. They just need direction, intent. And you. Vexai's voice grew softer. You understand loyalty. Honor. The bonds that matter. The technology will respond to that. Dr. Park stepped forward. Captain, this is extremely dangerous. We have no idea what kind of neural feedback you might experience. The alien technology could damage your brain permanently. Chen looked around the cargo bay at her crew. Morrison was working frantically to stabilize the power systems. Dr. Vasquez was deep in analysis of the bioneural networks. Dr. Park was preparing what human medical equipment he could integrate with the alien systems. All of them working to save the life of a being they'd known for less than a week. Vexai, she said quietly. If I do this, will you be able to fight? Captain, if you do this, I will be able to do far more than fight. The third Talon was not just a military unit. We were brothers. Pack. Family. His eyes blazed despite his weakening condition. Your people showed me that such bonds can exist between strangers. If you save me, I will show you what such bonds can accomplish in war. Chen stood and began removing her jacket. Dr. Park, prep whatever monitoring equipment you can. If my brain starts shutting down, pull me out immediately. Captain, that's an order. She turned to her first officer. Commander Pike, continue course for Proxima Centauri. If this goes badly, the fleet needs to know everything we've learned about the hegemony. The neural interface was unlike anything Chen had ever experienced. The moment the bioneural crown settled over her head, her consciousness expanded beyond her own skull and into the vast network of alien technology. She could feel Vexai's pain as if it were her own, the toxins burning through his system, the damaged cybernetics screaming malfunction warnings, the slow shutdown of organs pushed beyond their limits. But she could also feel something else, the gentle presence of the medical systems themselves, ancient and wise and compassionate. We understand, they seemed to whisper directly into her mind. This one is pack-bonded to you. We will heal. The surgery that followed was like a dance between biological and technological forces that Chen could observe but not fully comprehend. The alien systems worked with precision beyond human capability, carefully removing the damaged cybernetic components while simultaneously replacing them with new ones grown from some impossible combination of metal and living tissue. Through it all, Chen maintained the connection, her human determination and protective instincts somehow providing the bridge the alien technology needed to understand what was required. When Vexai's heart stopped for 37 seconds during the procedure, it was her refusal to let him go that guided the medical systems in restarting it. When she finally disconnected from the neural interface, Chen found herself on the floor of the cargo bay with Dr. Park shining lights in her eyes and half her crew standing over her with concerned expressions. Captain? Can you hear me? How many fingers am I holding up? 3, she managed, then pushed herself upright. Vexai? The answer came as a sound that raised the hair on the back of her neck, a howl that filled the cargo bay with harmonics that spoke of strength, rage, and purpose. She turned to see Vexai standing beside the alien medical equipment, his armor blazing with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed like a heartbeat. But it was his new leg that made her gasp. The replacement was clearly not human technology. It was sleek and predatory, with the same organic curves as the rest of his armor but somehow more aggressive. Power flowed through it in visible channels, and, when he moved, the leg responded with fluid precision that was beautiful and terrifying. Captain, Vexai's voice was stronger than she'd ever heard it. I am in your debt. We're even, Chen said, getting to her feet with Dr. Park's help. You're going to help us save Proxima Centauri. More than that. Vexai's eyes blazed as he tested his new mobility, moving around the cargo bay with lethal grace. The hegemony believes they are hunting sheep. They are about to discover they have cornered wolves. The journey to Proxima Centauri took 36 hours, and, during that time, Vexai transformed the Endurance from an exploration vessel into something approaching a warship. His knowledge of hegemony tactics and technology was encyclopedic, and his understanding of weapon systems was beyond anything Chen's crew possessed. The hegemony relies on psychological warfare as much as firepower, he explained as they worked to modify the ship's defensive systems. They broadcast neural disruptors that cause panic and despair in most species. But humans. He looked directly at Chen. Human minds are naturally resistant to such manipulation. Your species has an unusual capacity for hope in the face of overwhelming odds. Is that why they want to enslave us rather than simply exterminate us? Partly. But there is something else. Vexhai paused in his work on the weapons array. Captain, in all the time the Third Talon fought across the galaxy, we encountered thousands of species. Most fell into predictable patterns when faced with superior force. They submitted, fled, or fought with conventional tactics. And humans? You adapt. Constantly and with bewildering creativity. The hegemony has studied 12 human colonies before attacking Proxima Centauri. In every case, the human defenders employed tactics that should have been impossible with their technology level. Vexhai's armor pulsed with what Chen was learning to recognize as excitement. The hegemony fears what humanity might become if allowed to develop freely. They dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system to find a battle already in progress. 6 hegemony vessels were engaged with the remnants of the human defense fleet, their organic hulls gleaming like insects in the system's red light. 3 human cruisers left operational, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. Heavy damage to all vessels. The orbital platforms are gone. Chen studied the tactical display. The human ships were clearly outmatched, their conventional weapons having little effect on the hegemony vessel's adaptive shielding. Vexhai, what do you see? The Warhound's enhanced senses were already analyzing the battle. Standard hegemony hunting pack formation. They're herding the human ships toward the planet, preparing to disable them for capture rather than destruction. They want prisoners for interrogation and conversion. How do we stop them? Vexhai's lips pulled back in that savage grin Chen was learning to associate with impending violence. We remind them what happens when predators become prey. The Endurance accelerated toward the battle, broadcasting human fleet codes. To the hegemony sensors, they would appear to be another lightly armed exploration vessel attempting to flee. Captain, Commander Pike said quietly, if this doesn't work, it'll work. Shen's confidence wasn't based on their chances of victory, it was based on the expression she'd seen in Vexhai's eyes. The last of the Third Talon had found his pack again, and he was about to show the galaxy why warhounds were created to be unstoppable. As they closed to weapons range, Vexhai interfaced directly with the ship's modified weapon systems. What happened next would become legend among both human and alien military historians. The Endurance didn't just attack the hegemony vessels, she hunted them. Vexhai's tactical genius, combined with human engineering and determination, created something the enemy had never encountered, a ship that fought with the instincts of a predator and the heart of a protector. The first hegemony vessel died before its crew understood what was happening. The second and third fell to weapon combinations that shouldn't have been possible. By the time the remaining 3 attempted to retreat, it was too late. Vexhai had taught them what it meant to be hunted by something that refused to give up. When the last hegemony vessel fell silent, Chen found Vexhai standing at the tactical station, his armor dim with exhaustion but his eyes blazing with satisfaction. Captain, he said quietly, my brothers are avenged. And, your people are magnificent warriors. Chen looked at the tactical display showing the debris field that had once been an enemy fleet, then, at the Warhound who had become so much more than a rescued stranger. Vexhai, she said, how would you feel about joining the human fleet permanently? We could use someone who understands how to fight the impossible battles. The Warhound's massive head tilted, considering. Captain, the Third Talon's motto was Pack above all. You and your crew have shown me that Pack is not limited by species or origin. He straightened to his full, imposing height. I would be honored to serve with humanity. Together, we will show the galaxy what happens when honor meets determination. As rescue ships moved to aid the damaged human vessels and secure the captured hegemony technology,